Hi guys, thanks for the opportunity to speak with you today a little bit about my very convoluted career in the arts and kind of the journey that I took getting there. I've had the opportunity to teach some of you over the last 2 terms, either in classes or in the workshops. But some of you might not know actually much about my background. And I actually, currently I'm working as a professional full-time artist in Hong Kong, although teaching as well on the side. And I'm known for wildlife paintings incorporating ink, watercolor, and working with a lot of different ecological charities around the world where I do kind of donations for the WWF or supporting different environmental charities as well. But that wasn't always what I had done, and actually it's been a very, very strange journey for me to get here, because I actually started in finance when I first left university in my first job in Hong Kong. And I think I have a very similar background to many of you here. You know, I was born here, I went to an international school, GSIS, not CIS. And it was kind of like very much the traditional sense that I had a gang of aunties and uncles who, as well as the familial and societal expectations to go into this corporate career of either finance or medicine or law. And I was very much pushed in that direction. Even though in school I really loved arts in all kinds of subjects, in English, in drama, and obviously visual arts as well. But nevertheless, I think there's this constant push, especially in Hong Kong, to follow these professional careers. And I listened. So I actually ignored all of my own kind of passions and personal enjoyment, and I decided the first job I did after university was to go straight into finance. And very awkwardly, I worked with Jardine Matheson, and I'm still on their recruitment page for whatever reason. So I started with them first in the financial accounting fields, doing a lot of property investment, and then I went into financial insurance. And to be honest, I'm really glad that I listened to a lot of the advice that, and you should be listening to advice from parents because they've lived longer, they've gone through a lot. And I was very happy to join the company initially because it showed me a whole new world and really important life skills in terms of how to manage my finances, looking at contracts, these different kind of professional aspects that if you're running a business or aiming at working in the corporate world, there's a lot of important lessons to learn through that. But it was never my passion. And I remember once sitting there looking at my boss. He loved his job. He was there early, constant on the phone. You could see the passion in his voice. And I was like, I am never gonna get to this point. But nevertheless, I stayed there. So I was with Jardines for 7 years. And they treated me well, it's a cushy job, good salary, all the kind of benefits and the things that, would make, a traditional Chinese family proud in terms of what you were doing. But I was never fulfilled. And during this entire time, it's kind of both a side hustle as well as a little bit of, helping my own sanity and making sure that I was pursuing, at least on the side, something that I really enjoyed. I was constantly painting. And in part of that process, so these are some of the paintings that I did, I was always trying to spare time to, on weekends, in the mornings, sometimes in the evenings, whenever I had spare time, I was constantly drawing, I was constantly sketching, trying to just find that creative outlet, just to give myself a little bit of a balance from this kind of corporate and professional life that I was, trying to keep up on the side as well. And so I was constantly doing that. And I think around my 3rd or 4th year with the company, I was with my mom and I actually stumbled upon this box with all of my old paintings, and I decided to write this article about it online. So I wanted to take you a little bit further back than kind of the paintings that I'm doing at the moment, very, very far back. And I shared this retrospective of art that I did from a kid to an adult, basically. And this is some of my grandparents still enjoying kind of the artworks and the wildlife from a very early age. The next one's a really important, oh, sorry, not Ninja Turtles, they're very important as well. But this was an important one. That at the age of 5, I knew exactly what I wanted to be. I was like, I want to be an artist. For some reason, I didn't want to be a veterinarian. I'm not exactly sure why, even though I love animals. But You know, it was at this early age that I knew this is what I wanted to be. But it took me more than 20 years to actually like realize that, or actually find my way back to this. And it's an important image because I think Picasso famously said he spent a lifetime learning how to paint like a child again. And it's not so much in terms of like the abstraction or those kind of elements as well. I think what he really meant is like, you know, in this early stages, especially, and I'm sure you've all experienced it in school as well, in the early stages of like life and learning, you're just there to enjoy, you're there to find out new things, to discover new things, and constantly be part of this growing and developing process. But as you get older, it's like these familial and societal expectations start to like pile on and really like affect the way you're thinking. And I'm sure for many of you, you start chasing grades. As you get older, you start chasing salaries or promotions and all these kind of things. But you know, ultimately, there's probably some kind of innate desire to do something that you really love and to foster like these different passions that you have. So I'll go through this really quickly. I don't want to spend too much time, but I shared this article going through the years and how I kind of developed and constantly was practicing, developing, and always painting on the side. At one point, I really wanted to work for Blizzard, and so I drew a lot of monsters. So that was a bit of a strange aspect. You know, going into more photorealistic and developing these different skills. And I think the important thing is, you know, in anything that you do, you really want to make sure that you're constantly practicing, you're constantly developing, because you know, as much as you think you have innate talent, you know, they say that you need 10,000 hours of something to actually become really, really good at it. So this was my, essentially the same as an IB work. If any of you haven't checked the year 13s, their work is absolutely incredible and I highly recommend it. So any of the art students here, really well done for that. It was better than Art Basel, I feel. Like, honestly. And so even after I left high school, I didn't decide to pursue art in university. I was like, kind of a good boy, decided to go to Durham University, do kind of the appropriate subjects, but I made sure to continue sketching whenever I was traveling, you know, maintaining that passion throughout all of this time. And I started to, well into my career with Jardines, I kept painting, kept putting this onto the, either my website or social media. And so this article was really like the turning point for me, and this artwork as well was one of the first pieces that I sold professionally. Well, actually, not professionally, as a side hustle. So this was one of the first things where suddenly I was like, oh, you know, might be something that I can actually pursue rather than just being this pipe dream in the future or like when I retire. So this was the retrospective. And it went completely viral online. Like I was overnight, I think I posted it to Reddit. It was picked up like the Daily Mail. I got interviewed by the Huffington Post. I've got Apple Daily on the left there, it's called Hong Kong Gossip Rag. So yeah, it was a really surreal experience that suddenly, out of nowhere, I had this audience like overnight. And you know, it was quite a surprise. And I think this is after I had been doing art about part-time for maybe 3 years while at Jardines, constantly finding that spare time. And you know, like with all these interviews, I got a lot of new commission requests, a lot of people trying to buy my art. And then, so a lot of friends were asking me like, oh, so you're quitting now, right? Like, this is it, this is your break. And I didn't. I stayed with the company for another 4 years because I'm a very careful person. And, you know, I kind of tried to balance both things at the same time, which was tough, but something I don't regret at all as well, because I had, you know, that security net of that corporate life, but also maintaining these different passions as well. And I think it's important that you don't rush into things sometimes because it's not an easy life. But eventually, it came to a point, like I said, when I was looking at my boss and you know, I could see how much he loved his job, how kind of passionate he was, and I knew that I'd never get to that point as well. And so I came to this kind of crossroads where I was like, do I decide to quit and actually, you know, pursue this full time? And the ultimate question behind that was, what am I going to regret more 20, 30 years down the line? Am I going to be worried about the fact that like I didn't get that promotion, or you know, I climbed the corporate ladder for X amount of years and then you know, had that stability? Or if I don't scratch this itch at some point, am I going to be really, really regretful of that? And you know, ultimately it came down to that call that you know, I thought I would regret it if I didn't at least try, especially when I was a little bit younger. So yeah, I decided to quit the company, and within, I think, a year or two, I suddenly got like all of these contracts with different brands, different corporations, and thankfully, I know it was a very, very lucky experience, but it did require a lot of hard work as well. But all those years learning in that corporate environment, that professional environment, really helped me in kind of like negotiating deals, making contracts, all of these different kind of elements as well. Sorry. But what I wanted to stress is that throughout this entire kind of professional life, as I was doing it part-time, and as you've seen from a very early age, it was about consistency of practice. It was about never letting go of that like passionate idea of, this is what I want to become. And even though I think I encourage you guys, all of you, don't be afraid of going into like corporate life, to law, to any of these kind of professions that you might be looking at. I don't think it's a bad thing at all, because I think you learn so many life skills, you learn so many ways of interacting with either different people, different professions. But what I would say is don't let go of those different passions that you might have as well, because it's so important to hold on to that, not just for your own sanity, but like for me, it's a cathartic, meditative process. Like, it's always been that way of me having an outlet. And I think as long as you're holding that to some degree and constantly developing, changing, and learning as well, it's a really, really fulfilling thing to continue well into adulthood as you go along. And you can see like my artwork has changed so much over the years. And I think as you're getting older, it's all about evolution. It's all about developing these different talents and consistently be willing to learn and grow as well. So yeah, that's pretty much the presentation. But I just wanted to say, like, don't let go of those passions. If you really love your art, your sport, your drama, make sure that in some way in your lives that you're incorporating it and pushing forward with that as well. Thanks very much.